In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the tropics, diving into the upcoming pattern where we now expect a very major nor'easter just near New York City. So that's going to impact southern New England, the mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast as a whole. And then we're going to be diving into the temperature pattern where, again, we have a big cool down that has now arrived, and that is expected to stick around, have a little bit of a break, but then come back, perhaps even bigger, for the mid to late October timeframe. So we have a lot of cold, a lot of storms, and some tropics to talk about today. Now, before we dive into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description and the pinned comment down below, where we do weekly consulting calls, we do other consulting services within our community, but not only that, we also do early access to all of our monthly and seasonal outlooks over there, so you can gain early access to these direct weather videos. Be sure to check it out. It's only $5 a month in the description and the pinned comment down below. Let's get into things, and as we're taking a look at the tropics here, we see that one disturbance that we talked about yesterday, the percentages now stand at 30% over the next 48 hours, which is up 10%. And 80% chance over the next 7 days, which is again up 10%. So definitely looking at pretty high chances of development. Now, as we take a look here at the upcoming pattern, we see that this is the remnants of Felipe, also a very major nor'easter at this point, causing a lot of rainfall and a lot of wind here for a lot of the northeast. We can see that trough. I mean, you can really see it here. The jet stream is doing about like this, so it's diving southward in the eastern United States, which is allowing for this cold air to pour into that funnel basically, and warm air is surging up in the west, and this is called a positive PNA. So we're going to do a little positive here. This pushing upward in the west is what causes the east to really see this downward motion with the cold. It gets pushed and forced to the east from this warmth surging in, and then it is forced to basically go southward. It has nowhere else to go. And that is why this positive or negative PNA out west is detrimental to the upcoming pattern. We talk about this time and time again. By this evening, it's going to be mostly nice outside of the cooler temperatures for most of the United States, with the exception of the areas pretty close here to Canada, where that 980 low sits pretty far north of the border. This is allowing for some rainfall to develop in states like Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Vermont for later on this evening. Now, for the afternoon on Monday the 9th here, what we see is a little bit of some storminess moving onshore to the northwest. Areas in the Great Lakes and Northeast here seeing quite a bit of this. But again, a relatively nice day outside of the cold in the east. By Tuesday the 10th here, we continue to see this storminess here for the northwest. So this low right here over western Canada is mostly causing this. We do have an almost equally strong low here over Wyoming and Montana. These are kind of tag teaming to create this very stormy situation out west. We can see this low pressure system is rapidly weakening here and causing only isolated showers at this point for the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and Eastern Canada. Now, for Wednesday on October 11th, what we end up seeing is a 989 millibar low pressure center here, but we also have some weaker lows around, and this is all kind of working in tandem to create these showery conditions for a lot, again, of the Northwest down through the Rockies. And we can see this actually creates a bit of an early season snowstorm for states like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado there, specifically for the mountaintops, but this is reaching down pretty far in elevation actually, so certainly a pretty heavy situation out there. And then we have this little bit of either tropical activity or perhaps non-tropical activity, but the bottom line is that we are seeing a lot of storms as a result of this for states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Very heavy rainfall, perhaps some winds if that low decides to develop. So certainly looking at a pretty decent storm there. For Thursday on the 12th, we see a 990 millibar low pressure center there between Nebraska and Kansas, creating heavy snowfall again for Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, and portions of South Dakota there. And then we can see along the jet stream. So on this part, it's dry, but as we work our way eastward from this low, we can see it does about like that. And we see storminess all along that. Still seeing the remnants of this potential tropical activity for Georgia and Florida as well. Let's keep going, and this is as we reach Friday, October 13th. We see a 995 over Illinois. We see 1,002 down here for the southeast. And I mean, as you draw it down, we see that there is just overall plenty of storminess to go around here for most of the eastern United States as a result of these low pressure systems. Something interesting is going to happen here really soon. As we see by Saturday afternoon, we see that all of this energy transfers from the onshore low to this offshore low. And now this one's bombed all the way down to a 988 millibar low pressure center right here. I'm underlining it. And that is going to be offshore of New Jersey, creating a lot of wind and a lot of heavy rainfall, of course. We can see at its peak, it makes it down to a 982 there, very close to New York City. And this would, again, be a very windy, very stormy situation for a lot of the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and New England as a whole. As we keep going, we see that this one eventually weakens back up to a 987. Eventually moving offshore in the 990s and eventually the thousands of millibars. So this does weaken very rapidly. And what we're left with is another trough here in the east with more cold air pouring in right behind it. So we continue to see that happening. There is some storm systems moving in through the northwest here along that jet stream. Pretty common occurrence there. Not unheard of by any means. And certainly creating a lot of storminess there in the northwest again, but much weaker this time around. This is by the time we're taking a look at the end of the model run, Tuesday into Wednesday, the 17th into the 18th, and we continue to see something like this where there's still cold air pouring into the east, but it's pretty balanced out west, and we still are seeing a lot of storm systems move along that jet stream there for the northwest into the Rockies and even the northern plains. Total precipitation here, no surprises whatsoever. The northwest is pretty active here, as you can see. Also the plains, and if you take that eastward all the way to the northeast, New England and Mid-Atlantic, we see that this corridor as a whole is looking very active, particularly New Jersey into New York into southern New England with that major nor'easter that could create a lot of rainfall. And then we also see with this tropical activity that wants to move into the southeast, we also see pretty heavy amounts of precipitation there, especially in Florida and Georgia. Now, as we take a look at the temperature pattern, there's that cool down that's happening. And again, the positive PNA out west. I want to just visualize this with you guys. We see that out here, positive PNA right here. And this is what is causing this cold air to surge southward for a lot of the eastern United States. As we keep going over the coming days, Monday is going to be quite cool here, as you can see. Also for Tuesday into Wednesday. Here's Wednesday, and look, what we end up seeing is some colder air trending in for the west, and this is indicative of a negative PNA, and this would encourage the warmth to want to kind of recycle and move back into the east. But what we're going to see is that this is only going to be short-lived, and we actually get some warmth building back in for the west very quickly by the time we're reaching the weekend. So this is Saturday the 14th. And look at this, warmth resurging out west, positive PNA once again, and we're going to start to see this cold move back in for the east. So we're going to watch that happen here. And as you can see, we get another pretty brutal cool down. And that one lasts, again, through the 18th here, 17th, 18th time frame. And that is the very end of the model run. So we are seeing back-to-back big cool downs here in the east as a result of a pretty consistently positive PNA. Let's take a look real quickly at the long range outlook, and no surprise over the next 5 days, this is the look. Very cold in the east, warmer out west. Let's take a look here at the 15th through the 20th, and again, we get another cycle of very far below normal temperatures in the east, very warm out west, which again is that positive PNA, which forces the cold southward. I just want to help you guys visualize that. That's why I always go back over it. Let's take a look at the 5-day period after that. We can see continued cold air in the east. And I mean, really that continues through the beginning portion of November. And then look, at the end for about late November, mid to late November timeframe, we do start to see a negative PNA pattern take over here according to this long range model. And we see warmth surging into the east. So we see the very opposite taking place at some point in November. We're going to take this with a grain of salt. It is very far out. There is a lot of time still to go. But I think it is interesting to note, and we could be watching for this over the coming days and weeks ahead as we patiently await and see what this pattern is going to do. We do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily uploads just like this one. Also, be sure to hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.